The little girl sat alone on those concrete steps, tears streaming down her face, her lunchbox unopened beside her. And then a stranger approached, a man she'd never seen before, holding out half of his sandwich with a gentle smile. She had no idea that standing just a few feet behind her, hidden by the building's shadow, her mother was watching everything unfold. Before we continue with this incredible story, I want to invite you to subscribe to Kindness Tales, where we share stories that remind us of the good in humanity. Hit that like button if these stories touch your heart, and please share your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let me tell you what really happened that day. Marcus Webb had been a single father for 3 years, ever since his wife passed away from cancer. Every morning felt like climbing a mountain with weights tied to his ankles, but he did it anyway because his 7-year-old son Tyler needed him. Marcus worked as a maintenance supervisor at a mid-sized office building downtown, the kind of job that kept the lights on but didn't leave much room for extras. He'd wake up at 5:30, pack Tyler's lunch, drop him at school, then head to work where he'd spend his days fixing leaky faucets, changing light bulbs, and making sure the building ran smoothly while remaining invisible to most people who worked there. On this particular Tuesday afternoon, Marcus sat on the back steps of the building during his lunch break. It was one of those perfect early autumn days when the air felt crisp and clean, and the sun painted everything gold. He'd brought his usual sandwich, turkey and cheese on wheat bread, nothing fancy but it filled him up. As he unwrapped it, he noticed a young girl, maybe 9 or 10 years old, sitting at the far end of the steps. She wore a private school uniform, the expensive kind with the embroidered crest, and her backpack looked brand new. But what caught his attention wasn't her clothes. It was the way her shoulders shook as she cried quietly into her hands. Marcus hesitated. In today's world, approaching a crying child as a stranger felt complicated, potentially dangerous even. But something in his heart, maybe the father in him, wouldn't let him just sit there and eat while this kid was clearly hurting. He stood up slowly, making sure his movements were obvious and non-threatening, and walked over to where she sat. "Hey there," he said gently, keeping a respectful distance. "You okay?" The girl looked up, her face blotchy and wet with tears. She quickly wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, embarrassed. "I'm fine," she whispered, but her voice cracked on the words. Marcus glanced at the unopened lunchbox beside her. "Rough day?" he asked, sitting down on the steps but leaving plenty of space between them. "I'm Marcus. I work here in the building. Maintenance." The girl sniffled. "I'm Sophie," she said quietly. "Nice to meet you, Sophie. You go to that academy a few blocks over." He gestured toward the direction of the prestigious private school. She nodded. "I hate it there," she said, and suddenly the words came tumbling out like water from a broken dam. "Everyone's mean. They make fun of me because I don't have the right shoes or because my mom's always busy. Today they laughed at my presentation in front of the whole class, and the teacher didn't even stop them. She just said I needed to speak louder and try harder." Marcus felt his chest tighten. He knew that kind of pain, the sharp sting of being different, of not fitting in. Tyler had experienced some of it too, being the kid without a mom at parent events, wearing thrift store clothes to school while other kids showed up in designer brands. "I'm sorry, Sophie. That sounds really hard," he said. "You hungry?" She shook her head, but her stomach betrayed her with a loud growl. She looked down, embarrassed again. Marcus smiled kindly. "Tell you what, I've got this sandwich here, and it's way too much for me. My son always tells me I pack too much food. You'd actually be helping me out if you took half." He carefully tore the sandwich down the middle and held out one half to her on a napkin. Sophie looked at it, then at him, uncertainty in her eyes. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Positive," Marcus said. "Can't let good food go to waste, right?" She took it hesitantly, and for a moment they sat there together, this unlikely pair on the concrete steps, sharing a simple sandwich in the autumn sunshine. Marcus told her about Tyler, about how he struggled sometimes too, about how being different wasn't a weakness but actually made you stronger. Sophie listened, and slowly, between small bites, she started to relax. She even smiled a little when Marcus told her about the time Tyler had accidentally worn his shirt inside out to school and decided to tell everyone it was reverse fashion day. What Marcus didn't know was that someone had been watching the entire interaction. Catherine Morrison stood just inside the building's entrance, partially hidden by the tinted glass doors. She was the CEO of Morrison Analytics, one of the largest companies in the building, and she'd been on her way out for an afternoon meeting when she'd spotted her daughter through the window. Catherine had been trying to reach Sophie's school for the past 20 minutes, frantic when they'd called to say Sophie had walked off campus during lunch. She'd been about to run outside when she saw Sophie sitting on those steps, crying. And then she saw the maintenance man approach her daughter. Catherine's first instinct had been protective, almost alarmed. But something made her pause and watch. She saw the careful distance he maintained, the gentle way he spoke, the kindness in offering food he probably needed himself. She saw her daughter, her guarded, hurting daughter who barely spoke to her anymore, actually opening up to this stranger. And Catherine felt something crack inside her heart. She'd been so focused on building her company, on securing Sophie's future, on making sure her daughter had every material advantage she never had growing up poor, that she'd forgotten about the present. She worked 70-hour weeks, missed school events, communicated through nannies and drivers. She'd enrolled Sophie in the best private school, not realizing it was a place where children competed over luxury and conformity rather than learning compassion and character. And here was this man, someone she'd probably passed in the hallways 100 times without really seeing him, showing her daughter more genuine kindness in 10 minutes than Sophie had probably received from her supposed peers in months. After about 20 minutes, Sophie stood up, brushing crumbs from her uniform. "Thank you, Marcus," she said. "For the sandwich. And for listening. Anytime, Sophie. You're a strong, smart kid. Don't let anyone tell you different," Marcus replied. "And hey, tomorrow's a new day. Sometimes that's all we need." Sophie nodded and picked up her lunch box. As she turned to go, Catherine stepped out from the doorway. "Sophie," she called. Sophie's eyes went wide. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Marcus stood up quickly, suddenly aware of how this might look. "Ma'am, I can explain. Your daughter was upset, and I just offered her some food. I kept my distance, I promise. I have a son myself, and I just wanted to help." Catherine walked toward them, and Marcus noticed for the first time that this woman in the expensive suit looked exhausted, worried, and on the verge of tears herself. She reached her daughter and knelt down, pulling Sophie into a tight hug. "I know," Catherine said, her voice thick with emotion. "I saw everything." She looked up at Marcus, and he was surprised to see gratitude in her eyes, not anger. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you for being kind to my daughter when she needed it most." Catherine had left that important meeting. She'd cleared her afternoon calendar. She spent the rest of the day with Sophie, really listening for the first time in months. That evening, Catherine made the decision to transfer Sophie to a smaller, more nurturing school. She restructured her work schedule, delegating more responsibilities and setting hard boundaries about family time. But she did something else too. The following week, Marcus was called into the building manager's office. His heart sank, assuming someone had complained about his interaction with Sophie. Instead, he found Catherine Morrison waiting there, along with his supervisor. She stood and shook his hand. "Mr. Webb, I've been talking with your supervisor about your work here. I understand you've been trying to get into the building's HVAC certification program for 2 years but haven't been able to afford the training." Marcus nodded, confused about where this was going. "Morrison Analytics would like to sponsor your certification, full tuition, plus a raise to compensate for the time you'll spend in training. And once you're certified, we'd like to offer you a position as our head facilities manager. The job comes with better pay, benefits, and a schedule that will let you spend more time with your son." Marcus stood there, speechless, his eyes stinging with unexpected tears. "I don't understand," he managed. "Why?" "Because you showed my daughter kindness when she needed it most. You didn't know who she was or who I was. You just saw someone hurting and chose compassion. That's the kind of character we need more of in this world," Catherine said. "And because every child should have a parent who can be present for them. You gave me that reminder when I needed it most. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create ripples we never see." Marcus had no way of knowing that sharing half a sandwich would change his life and Sophie's. He wasn't trying to impress anyone or gain anything. He just saw a child in pain and chose to help. That's the purest form of human goodness, the kind that asks for nothing in return. Today, Marcus runs the facilities for 3 of Catherine's buildings, and he's able to be at every one of Tyler's school events. Sophie thrives at her new school and volunteers at a youth mentorship program on weekends. And Catherine has found a balance between success and presence, between providing for her daughter and being there for her. Sometimes she still joins Marcus and Sophie for lunch on those same back steps, sharing sandwiches and stories, a reminder of the moment that taught them all what really matters. The next time you see someone struggling, remember Marcus and Sophie. You don't need to change the world. You just need to share your sandwich, offer your time, show up with kindness. Because sometimes the people who look like they have everything together are actually falling apart inside. Sometimes the simplest gesture of humanity can save someone's day or even change the entire direction of their life. What act of kindness will you share this week? Tell us in the comments below.